time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by
PSE Archery,
Hunter's Blend Coffee,
Better the Hunt,
Easy Cut,
Packer Maxx,
Buck Baits,
Limb Walker Game Calls,
Total Peep,
Sunrise Archery,
Scent Lock,
Scent Blocker,
and Rebel 6 Rubs and Seasonings.
Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal podcast. Everybody, I'm host Mike Adams, sitting in the cabin tonight, waiting for the big storm to hit.
And it's not a Sunday night.
No, it's Thursday.
And it's usually on a Sunday night we get the storms, and I get to drive home in it. But now we switched it Thursday, so everybody can thank us for just moving the snowstorms to Thursday night.
Yeah, I think it's Jim Beasley once again messing with us.
Oh, absolutely.
He's sitting up there in the big sky right now. You know, it always happened when we go shoot archery league. It always started. So
right, we start archery league this week.
That's right. So why not? Let's
I
just
guess
throw
I better,
a winter snowstorm
I guess
at us.
we better find. I better find my bow.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
Right. Well, let's take care of some quick business and get this thing rolling tonight, man. We got a guest sitting here.
We got a guest sitting there, and he's chomping at the bit to get on Facebook, obviously. So we're going to take care of business. And you know what, guys? It's cold, but we got some nice warm Hunter's Blend coffee. And if you use the promo code UNJ, you can get your discount when you check out at huntersblendcoffee.com.
That's right. It's right under my finger for those of you watching the show.
Or for those that are listening on the podcast, capital UNJ.
There you go.
So, but that's not all. Our friends down at Buck Baits, a.k.a. Deer Camp as well, if you use the promo code UpNorthJournal, you can get 20% off your order when you check out there at buckbaits.com. Get over there and check out what he's got lined up. He's got some stuff there for your hunting seasons, you know, and it's never too late to start thinking about hunting season.
Nope.
Especially with spring coming up, so there's nothing better to do than do some spring planning, I think.
Absolutely. What do you think we just get right into it then?
I think we get Link and Rohn on here to talk about the Packer Maxx and do it and thinking spring.
What's going on, Link?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, hanging in there, man. Hanging in there, living the dream. Sometimes it's a nightmare.
Yeah, right on.
In Lincoln, you are on the west side of the state,
and you're going to get hammered with snow.
And you're sending it our way. So
Yep.
You know what? Let's just sit tight. Let's talk some spring. And how you been?
I've been good. Been busy. It's just been it's kind of been a whirlwind since September of last year, between wrapping up, the Packer Maxx selling season to hunting, and then through the holidays, and then right into Packer Maxx full steam ahead right after, basically since Thanksgiving. It hasn't let up, and so it's just been crazy. And then we're throwing in a little bit of real estate here and there, and haven't had time to do much of anything besides that. So,
well, let's start off. It's a
good problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you've been busy, but let's start off with some fun stuff in your hunting. You started off hunting in Michigan. How did that go for you?
So we hunt our properties in the northwest corner of Newaygo County, and it was a pretty trying year. They have enacted the in the CWD core area. The DNR has enacted the you can shoot 2 bucks of any size. There's no APR on either tag, and this was the 3rd year of that. And we, you guys know. I mean, we shot some pretty nice bucks for Newaygo County in the past. We were consistently harvesting 120s and 130s. We always had, and for Newaygo, that's a great buck. We always had, some bigger ones that we were, playing cat and mouse with. And but since they've enacted that 2 buck of any size limit and 10 toe tags per hunter, our hunting has just been it's been very, very difficult and very, very frustrating. And but we did have a couple of decent bucks running around. My son was able to harvest 2 pretty nice 8 points with his bow, and we were I hadn't seen a shooter or had a shooter on camera the entire month of October. So we started kind of talking amongst our guys, and we were like, well, we can't continue to just go out night after night, weekend after weekend with nothing to hunt. Like, there's literally not, a buck that we had, that we could hunt.
Right, exactly.
So we started looking at a couple of our bucks that we did have, and and this was a buck that I had passed twice during bow season. It's a small. We get quite a few small 3-year-olds, like they're late born spike horn, or their first year is a small spike, maybe a big 4 or 6 point as a 2-year-old, and then a smaller 8 point at 3, and it takes them a minute to catch up. And especially now that we can't, because we used to run, supplemental feed through our feeders. We had, a supplemental feed program plus our food plot program. So it takes a minute for them to catch up. So we had this 3-year-old 8 point that was a, relatively regular customer. So we decided as a group, we're going to take him off the do not shoot list, and we'll at least we have something that we can go out and hunt.
Right.
Everybody was in agreement, and so that night I went out, climbed in my Slayer blind over my food plot, and the second weekend of gun season, that buck walked in broad daylight, like he owned the place, and I shot him.
Just that easy.
and so then I texted my buddy, and I said, "Well, he's dead. Now what do we do? Now what do we hunt?"
Right.
So, and it was a nice 8 point. It was, it's a 3-year-old, and that was, that's our target. But I mean, it was one of those things. And, I'm not gonna downplay the buck because, he deserves to be, celebrated just like any other buck. And,
Absolutely.
And I it's like I said, we made a decision as a group. And I just happened to be the one that he came into, that night. And so it's a beautiful 8 point, I mean, again, I don't even know what it scored. I don't even care what it scored. It's a 3-year-old. So
yep, exactly. It fit your parameters, and you guys decided as a group that one would go, and you just happened to walk in front of you in broad daylight. That was a mistake.
Yep, exactly. So then, and then we proceeded to, I shot a doe the next day. And then prior to that, my Illinois, I was on my Illinois lease, that first week in November.
Which you weren't flooded out this year.
No, we weren't. It's the first year. Well, it's the first year. Excuse me. It's the second year out of 5 years that it did not flood.
You've had some. You've had some pretty good camera pics of floods from that property.
Oh, yeah, I've got a lot of pictures of wood ducks floating past the camera. So anyway, we made the trip down to Illinois and hunted the lease down there. It was probably the warmest week of hunting that I've been ever hunted in November.
Really?
And it was in the 80s during the day. It was cooler in the morning. But we're right on the Mississippi River, and so about midweek, 7 days in, I think, my buddy says, "Hey, I think we need to get in tight to the river. Like, with this heat, he said, I could feel like a cool breeze coming off the river, and I think we just need to move in tight." So I said, "Well, why don't you go ahead and, we'll slide your stand in closer. It's only like a 75-yard move." And I said, "Let's just, you sit down there on that ridge and see what happens." So I'll be darned, that night, one of our big shooters that we'd been getting on camera was a 157-inch 10-point, giant body deer, comes strolling past, whack, smokes it. Gorgeous buck, long tines, and 157 inches. So, and by my standards, that's a giant.
Right.
So anyway, so the next day he says, "Well, why don't you, literally, let's just go sit in that tree, see what happens." I'm like, "All right." So I went and climbed up in that tree, and it's funny because it's a floodplain, and so there's a refrigerator right behind me. Yes, a refrigerator. So
I was waiting for the joke there, but no, it is a refrigerator.
No, it's a refrigerator. So this buck, this one of our, it was a beautiful 10-point that we've been getting on camera. I see him coming. He's chasing the doe. He's grunting the whole way. It's just that perfect, that perfect rut hunt situation. He's coming down through the thicket. The doe is trying to lose him in the thick brush. and he's just glued to her. So finally she comes slithering. I know she's going to come right by me. She walks right past the refrigerator, and I use a crossbow. And so the buck was behind me. So I'm standing up in the stand backwards, and I got I've got I'm watching him come, and I'm just making sure that my limb is clear of the tree. And, checked it. Well, then he comes strolling by, and I grunted him at 15 yards and stopped him. Well, in the process of him stopping, he took like one more full stride. And so I moved about another inch, and I touched it off, and the bow about flew out of my hands, and the limb hit the tree. And, of course, my arrow landed at his feet. And so obviously I was pretty distraught. I'm like, that's a rookie move right there. What in the world? I mean, what just happened? I can't believe it. And so anyway, so I'm upset. This was on that was on day 8 of hunting very, very hard for 8 days straight. We were pulling midday sits. We were, long morning sits, midday sits, evening sit. We hunted hard. And so then the next morning, I said, I'm going back to the well. I got to go back to the well. So I slide back in that tree stand. I get in there, early, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear that same grunting coming right down through that same thicket. And I had put out some VS1, Conquest VS1.
Right.
And that buck made it past me, behind me. I could not get a shot, and it went up to a little area. It's like a sandy beach area. Went down to the Mississippi River and took a drink, and he started wind checking. And I am very confident he smelled that VS1, because he came back around, and then he went back up into that thicket, and you could see him looking for it. And he came right back down that same runway that doe and buck came down the night before. Only this time, I waited till he got on the other side of the tree, and I grunted him and stopped him and smoked him. And he was like 15 paces, and he ran up to the ridge and stopped and went in behind some trees. And I was pretty sure he went down, but I didn't know for sure. And so anyway, after giving him some time, I went down there, and it was a 12 point that we had been getting on camera. And I knew it was a really nice buck. I just didn't know for sure what it was. And so it ended up being a 146-inch 12 point. So mainframe 12, clean 12, which you don't see very many of anymore. And so I was elated with that buck, obviously.
Right, exactly. And you used the cart to get it out, because it was a big deer.
Yep, yeah, it was a huge deer. We got, and I keep telling people, if you're a meat hunter, you're not doing yourself a service by shooting younger deer, because we ended up getting 92 pounds of boned meat off that deer. That's pure venison.
That's some good meat.
Is that what that refrigerator was for behind you?
Yeah.
If he would have been a nice deer, he would have chopped himself up and put himself in that refrigerator for you, right?
He would have jumped in there. It's funny because I have a picture of my Luminoc right next to that refrigerator from the night before. I took a picture of it sticking in the ground right next to the fridge, and I'm like, that's something you just don't see.
Is that the weirdest thing you've seen floating through that floodplain down there?
Oh, no. We've refrigerators, the propane tanks, the 300-pound propane tanks.
Yeah.
We see those. We've got boats. There's literally boats that are just covered with mud.
Wow.
You
get it all.
Yeah, and it's different every year. You get new stuff in, new stuff out when it floods. So it's a pretty interesting little lease to hunt. So.
Right? Awesome. Well, you know what? We're coming up on our first break. How about we step outside, and when we come back, let's talk a little Packer Maxx.
All right.
We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has reinvented the way you buy bows.
From now on, you can make the most educated decision possible
by basing your bow choice specifically on your shooting needs and goals.
All you need to do is ask yourself, what kind of shooter am I? What do I want to achieve?
PSE will help find the right category for you.
So, what kind of shooter are you?
Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Second segment of the show, talking Lincoln, Rohn, of Packer Maxx. We've been to Illinois. We've done some hunting in Michigan. Talked about a floating refrigerator.
You're right.
So
you know, it's getting to be about that time. We're coming out of hunting season. We're starting the new year. It's blowing snow outside, and it's going to be cold, beyond cold. But it's not too early to start thinking about spring and what you're thinking about spring food plots or what you're thinking about doing to your property. And
right.
You know, like you said, one of the big steps is cultipating your food plot and making sure you follow the steps. Obviously, the first step you got to do is make sure what your soil content is get a soil check and make sure what you're doing, you're not doing for frivolous reasons of just throwing seed out just to feed everything else, right? So
right, to feed the birds.
Right, exactly. So, you know, you get your soil checked, you find out what kind of lime and everything, or whatever fertilizers you got to add per whatever recommendations. That's great. I know I've sent mine to Biologic, and they're pretty quick about it. So, Packer Maxx, talk to us about that. What you guys got in the hopper for the upcoming year? What's going on?
Oh man, well, we started, you know, right out of the gate. It's just going like gangbusters. It's we're you know, and we're behind already, and you know, feverishly working to get caught up so that we can maybe try to get ahead. But we just did not anticipate this kind of response this early, and so you know, we're really focused in on trying to get caught up and then start to get units ahead. So. But you know, we've been working on a new product. You know, last year we launched the wheel kit for the heavy duty unit, and you know, this year I probably the biggest thing that I've seen in the food plot industry that people want and that they're going to is this no-till process. And so Jeff Sturgis has a couple of different ways of doing it with buckwheat, where you plant the buckwheat. You let it grow, you seed into it, and then you crush it with the Packer Maxx. You know, and then that actually acts as like a mat, or like a kind of like a protection for the seed.
Okay.
So you're not tilling your soil, and it's the same principle as throwing down hay on your yard when you plant your yard.
Right. Except you're just using the natural that's in your field.
Yep. And then as that buckwheat breaks down, that then returns organic matter into your soil. And so plus you're not stirring up that weed bank. So that's one way of doing it. So you grow your buckwheat, you seed into it, you crush it, and then Jeff sprays it also with Roundup just to kill, because you can spray Roundup, you know, it doesn't hurt your seeds. And then that just, you know, puts a final kill on everything.
So he kind of uses a natural, almost a natural with it, besides with obviously Roundup, but using the natural growth and then going in, matting it down, then killing it, and then it almost becomes, like you said, that hay or straw that you're actually putting down.
Right. Yeah, and then it composts and, you know, turns into organic material and feeds your soil. So it also helps to you know, keep the moisture. If your soil isn't exposed to direct sunlight, it's not going to dry out near as quickly. And so by having that mat of buckwheat, it you know, holds that moisture and keeps the soil temps from skyrocketing in direct sunlight. So and you still get incredible growth through that mat of buckwheat, and it really works well. So a lot of guys have also gone to Grant Woods has that buffalo system where they grow rye, cereal rye, and then they'll do that same thing. They'll seed into that cereal rye, and then they'll crimp it. Okay. Well, we had a lot of people asking for a more economical, affordable, smaller crimper, because everything that's out there is this big $5,000 crimper that, you know, this monster piece of equipment that goes behind a big tractor. And obviously guys like us that are only doing, a few acres don't need that huge piece of equipment. Nor do we have the big tractor and the, like my John Deere is 20 horse John Deere 4-wheel drive tractor, you know.
Right. It's not the big guy.
Right. And so we couldn't get around in a lot of our food plots with a bigger tractor. So a lot of guys are asking for a more economical, smaller version crimper. So we started developing, this has been in our thought process for a little bit of time. How can we do this? And so I said, well, that wheel kit bracket, why couldn't we do the same principle with that and then just build a crimper cage? So we started developing that, and we just this week, as a matter of fact, picked up our very first prototype of the crimper cage. And we got it mounted up, and we have to make one slight adjustment. We have to have new side brackets cut. We have to extend them up a half of an inch because it was hitting on the drum. But other than that, it is really cool looking. And so what happens is the crimper cage mounts above the drum, and then you literally flip it over, and so the drum is above the crimper cage, so you have all that weight on this cage, and you pull it, and then you crimp that rye seed, the rye heads over, and then that terminates the rye. And then again, you have all that organic material breaking down, and then you have your food plot grows up through that mat of rye stem.
Well, it seems like a lot of guys are going to similar things like that, where they're trying to turn that organic matter back into the soil, and it puts nutrients back into the soil, but also it helps to hold moisture as well. Especially when you got a dry summer.
Yeah, exactly. And so Grant Woods it's a pretty cool little demonstration that he does. He has a spot of bare dirt, and he takes one of those laser temperature, digital. Yep. So and don't hold me to the numbers. I can't remember exactly what it was, but on bare black dirt in direct sunlight, it was like 100 and some change degrees, like 120 degrees.
Okay.
So then he goes to the mat area where he's got the rye stems crimped over. He pulls it apart, and it's like 30 degrees cooler underneath the mat. And so
you're not baking your seeds.
Right, you're not baking the soil, and it's actually conserving that moisture. It's protecting the new seed growth, and it's basically like putting a quarter of an inch of soil over your seeds for all practical purposes. And then you're actually, as that stuff is breaking down, you're literally feeding your soil, in your plants. And so the crimper. The prototype is done. We have to now, of course, we get the prototype, and we were looking forward to doing some testing, but it's probably not going to work so great in 12 inches of snow.
No.
So we're going to have to push the pause button on the testing. But as soon as I get the new brackets done, and we can at least kind of get a handle on how everything's going to hold up, and we'll be able to fill the drum with water and just make sure that everything is going to be able to support 350 pounds of water.
Well, maybe you can take and put like a snowblower and have it feed up into the drum, and then have some kind of heater in it, and it melts it, and there you get your water.
Yeah, melts it as it goes.
Right. So there you go.
We're super excited about that, though, because that's, like I said, that's something that so many people have been asking for. It's become very, very popular, especially for guys that don't have the big equipment. And at the end of the day, 90% of your 85% of your food plotters are probably going to go out and disc, till, whatever the case may be, plant, and then call to pack with a Packer Maxx. But there is a certain, there's certain guys that want to do the no-till process, and it makes a lot of sense. And it's so good for your soil, and it's just a preference thing, but a lot of guys are going to that.
Exactly.
So, we listened and we started developing this thing, and hopefully, after the testing is complete, we're going to be able to launch it, sometime in probably April. So,
well, and a lot of guys too that maybe have to hire it out. I know there's some club land up by where we hunt, and a lot of guys have it done. Well, it costs money per acre to drive somebody else's tractor, and that costs time. It's all about money. Well, if you're doing if you're doing the tilling, and then you're going back and you're having to plant it and cultipack it and all those, the guys that can do it with something similar to that, what you're talking about, or a no-till, they're saving some money.
Exactly. Yeah. And also it also depends on, where these people are going, right? They might not have the proximity of their property right around a couple hours away that they get there often enough where they're going to do it in one weekend or whenever they're there. So they have to manage their time, right? So, so you will have the adapter for the Packer Maxx this spring, you're thinking?
assuming everything goes as planned, we should have it released in the spring, and it's gonna be and that's the cool part too, is if you have a quad runner and you have a Packer Maxx or just a Packer Maxx and a sprayer, you could make some really sweet food plots. And if you add this crimper, you just bring it up to another level. So you just don't need tons of equipment. I mean, you just don't. And so that that in itself is huge. And,
right, exactly. Well, that's the whole part, right? Especially with Packer Maxx, you got a product out there. The one Packer Maxx, when it's empty, I think it was 55 pounds to carry it.
The one you guys have, the standard is 65 pounds empty.
Empty, so and you throw that over your shoulder and carry it wherever you need to. If not, I got it, I hook it up to my 4-wheeler up in the UP, and it's that easy. And then we can load it with water at the cabin, and then when we're done, it's like, all right, just unload it with the water. But it makes the ease of the Packer Maxx so much more, and it becomes multi-purpose.
Yep.
And I've used it. I've used to actually use it on our trail to push down the middle of the trail as going down our trail. I filled it up and just go up and down the trail. But like you said,
a lot of guys do that.
Exactly.
We do too.
So hey, it's a multi-purpose unit that you spend the money you need to, and it lasts.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, these we have so many people. My personal unit is 10 years old, and we do 11 food plots every year with it. Ranging from 4 acres down to half of an acre, and it still has the original bushings in it. So I mean, it's not and they're not super expensive, and so it's not a piece of equipment that you're going to buy and have to replace. Obviously, if you're ripping down a 2-track and hit a piece of re-rod or something, they're not bulletproof, but they're incredibly durable. So under normal use conditions, these things are going to last you a very long time. And so it's a good investment. It's a long-term investment. And if you did happen to bent your arm on you guys' unit, $25, I send you another one, and it takes you 6 minutes to replace it. So, and the benefits,
$25, I might bend Danny's arm for that.
Wait a minute.
It might be worth it.
Time out here. How am I getting hurt out of the deal?
So guys spend so much time and energy and money on food plotting, and then maybe don't quite get the results that they think they should, but they're dragging it with a fence drag or something.
Right.
Cultipacking there's a reason farmers have been doing this for generations. And there's a reason why farmers won't sell you their Cultipacker out of their fence row. They because they work, and this is geared towards the food plotter, small hobby farmer. It's designed for guys with multiple properties too that need to transport it. It's just a really solid piece of equipment, and it kicks your food plot program to the next level,
Right. Well, see, that's the whole part of it. It's all part of the process, starting with checking your soil to the final. If you do the right steps, you're going to end up with those pictures that you see, and you've taken these pictures of those luscious green fields that are looking great. And then when a nice 8-point buck comes walking out and is on the hit list, he gets nailed, right?
Right, and then you smoke him.
Right, exactly. So how about we step out and we'll come back and we'll keep talking some Packer Maxx. I want to ask you the difference between the unit we have and like the HD models and what other models you do have.
Okay.
All right, we're going to step outside. We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Welcome back, third segment of the show.
Before we go any further, I want to give a big shout out. Something that we've been working on in the state of Michigan, and we're finally on a local radio station up in the UP, an internet radio station up in the UP, M123 FM.
That's right.
Nice.
So
nice.
yeah, so we're
Newberry, right?
Yep, up in Newberry. So we are now officially on their station up there. I've checked, and they shared the show tonight. So Lincoln, Rohn, you are talking to the Eastern UP.
The UP.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
That's
right.
right.
Congrats, you guys.
Thanks. So,
very cool.
We're talking about the unit we have. You've also got some other models. You've got 4-footers, you've got 8-footers, you've got things that, depending on, like we talked about the size of tractor, you can accommodate that. Like you've got an HD model. Now, what's that?
Sure. So yeah, we have 5 different models. We have the standard unit, which is the one you guys have. It's just the tubular frame. It's kind of like a lot of guys ask me what my opinion is on whether they should get the standard or the HD. Well, it kind of depends on your situation. If you're doing field edges and you're only if you're only doing 1 or 2 acres of plots and it's relatively open terrain, that unit is probably going to serve you just fine for a very long time. And if you're careful with it, you can go through the woods with it and stuff. I mean, it's a tubular frame, so it can bend. And so that's the standard unit. And we move up to the Gamekeeper, the HD Gamekeeper series, and that has a 3/8-inch steel frame. And I kind of call that one the Sherman Tank series because you can hit it. You can literally center punch a tree with the arm of it, and it just walks around it. And so if you bend that one, you've really done something. So
now don't go out and try it, folks. If you have one, don't go out and purposely try it just so you can prove Lincoln wrong.
Right. So so that's the heavy duty 4-footer. That's probably that is our most popular unit. You can add a wheel kit to that. The flip over wheel kit. So you can transport it to your food plots on the wheels instead of on the drum. And then that's also you can add the wheel kit to any existing HD that's out there. So if you already had an HD, you can add that wheel kit. And then that's also the same unit that you can use the crimper on. So and then again, that's going to be retrofittable. So if you have a 4-foot HD already, you can add the crimper to it. So that's going to be a huge advantage of that too. So, and then we move into the 3-point hitch models. Well, actually, we have an 8-foot pull behind model also. And then we have the 3-point hitch. We have a 4-foot 3-point hitch and an 8-foot 3-point hitch model. So pretty much any type of scenario you are in, we've got a cultipacker that will fit your needs. So, but yeah, and again, it's not the I don't want to make your everybody's. I don't want to say hey man, you buy this thing and your food plot program is going to be fantastic. You still have to go through the steps. You still have to
put the work in.
All you're doing is you're providing a tool for the tool shed. We've had these conversations a million times, and it goes right back to step 1 when you check your soil. Because if you don't do that right, you might as well just take all the tools in the shed and just throw them out because it's not going to work.
Right.
So
I had an old farmer tell me one time. This is early in my food plotting career. If you don't lime, don't bother.
Right, exactly. And at the least you can do is throw lime down. I mean,
right.
And
he even says he would prefer you lime over fertilizing because all soil has some sort of nutrients in it. If it's growing weeds, it's got nutrients in it. Mm-hmm. So if your pH isn't correct and you can't release those nutrients to the plant, then it's useless. So by liming, you're unlocking that nutrients for the plant to be able to uptake it. So, but if you go through the steps and Mother Nature cooperates and you get a little bit of rain, the germination rates are incredible with these units. I get so many pictures of customers that plant, on one weekend and then they go check it 7 days later after one rain and they've got a beautiful, beautiful green start to a food plot, and then a week later they go back there and it looks like carpet, and the germination rates are just incredible. And that even getting that up and going and growing, you provide it's a better performing food plot. You're gonna I always say he with the most groceries wins, and if you don't have groceries, you got to have groceries.
Right. So, exactly.
And so, and if you're going to go through the process, you might as well carry it through the end. And the very last step is running running your field over with a cultipacker. It's the last step of the whole process, and it's likely one of the most important. So
right, exactly. So besides being important, you're also in the real estate business, and well, why don't you give a shout out to your real estate and what you're doing, and how's that all going? I know it's probably slow because it's February in Michigan.
Yeah, well, so I started this a little over a year ago. I got my real estate license, and I went to work with Chad Thielen with Stony Creek Properties. We have such, and then I sold my very first property. We closed on a Friday, and then Monday, the state of Michigan shut us down, and we couldn't do any real estate for months and months. Couldn't show properties, couldn't do nothing. Couldn't get title work done. So that kind of pushed the pause button on that. Well, then in the process, Packer Maxx was going absolutely crazy, and so I really kind of veered kind of my focus back to Packer Maxx. Well, things have started to progress again. Now we bought a franchise with United Country Realty, United Country Real Estate, and our official name is United Country Real Estate Lake States Realty and Auction. And so we can, we specialize in recreational properties, hunting properties, lake properties, cabins. I just sold a 80-acre piece right here, not far from my home, as a matter of fact. We just closed on it last Friday. The real estate market is hot right now. It is on fire. I just sold my personal home. We're actually.
Did you sell it?
In less than 18 hours.
Wow! I remember seeing the post. You were saying goodbye. I wondered how long it would take. 18 hours, not too shabby.
18 hours, and we got a full price offer. So that that's a whole other chapter going on. But so I sold this other piece in Gowan here, and now I just ran up to Bear Lake. This is going to be a pretty cool property. It's 40 acres. Up in Bear Lake, which is in the APR zone. It has a fifth wheel on it with it's a really nice aluminum structure roof over the fifth wheel.
Okay, yep.
I mean, it's really nice. It's not like it's very, very nice. And they've got a storage. Those the shipping containers. They got a big shipping container there for a storage unit. It's got electric. It's got a well. So it's a really neat, and it's got some really nice food plots already set up on it, but it's the whole front of it is kind of more open. So it's a Habitat Guru's like dream property because you're pretty much starting with a blank canvas, and you could really start getting after it and doing some really neat habitat improvements on this property, and start steering deer, and it's pretty cool. So that'll be getting listed. I think I just went up and got pictures and everything, and kind of a walkthrough this past weekend, and we're probably going to try to get that on the market here in the next week or so. So,
are you seeing more activity on this recreational land now with COVID? People trying to get out of the city and have their own little piece of whatever.
Yeah, you can't find listings right now because everything. It's just they're selling. If you do get a listing, it's sold immediately. Mm-hmm. And then they're just snapping them up, and or they're keeping them. There's people that were thinking about selling are now keeping them because they want to have a place to go,
just in case. Not to go there, but just in case.
Right, the bug out property.
Yeah.
I was telling my kids, they think, oh, Dad, whatever. I'm like, you guys know the contingency plan.
That's right.
Right?
And
the escape plan.
For whatever reason,
yeah.
You know where I'm going to be, and I expect you guys to,
follow
bring
suit.
Whatever you can and follow, and get up there. So.
Well, hey, even in your home, you've got a fire escape plan. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Everybody's got a plan.
Meet in the front yard.
Yep. Exactly.
That is awesome. It's good to hear. Well, people are staying at home, so they've got things on their mind. So it's like, hey, let's go look at properties, right?
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think that's kind of part of the uptick in even in hunting sales this year. The department's going to pat themselves on the back, but hunting license sales over the whole nation were up. People aren't. They're not going out for dinner. They're not going out to movies. They're not going to baseball games. They're not going to football games. They're not traveling as much. Chad Chad Brummel, he's a good friend of mine, used to help with the LG page, is in, I forget where he's in. He's in Cancun or something. And they literally, the whole beach is they have the whole beach to themselves. And so people are just not spending that money in those areas. So they're focusing money in other areas, whether it be real estate, Packer Maxx, property improvements, whatever. And so I feel really bad in a way because like there's so many businesses that are struggling epically through this, and Packer Maxx has just been on fire. And I'm very blessed in that regard. So
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, you know what I mean. We've done a good job getting it out there and stuff. But I mean, I have no doubt that we had some of our success last year and starting this year is a direct result of that. So, but
that's cool. That it's good to hear you're continuing to go. Like you said, through this last few months, it's almost going to be 1 year that I've been totally out of the office here in March. And I'm not due back to go back to after July. So
seems impossible.
It does, right? So
it is. It is just mind-boggling. I had, it's just a whole, it's a whole different environment than what we are accustomed to. So,
question for you on your Packer Maxx method of payment. What do you have available for that?
So if you go to the website, we take all credit cards, and then PayPal is also an option. But yeah, any credit card payment, you can process it right through the website. You can call me and order via over the phone. You can stop and pick up at the shop. If you're in the area, we are going to carry Northwoods Whitetails food plot seed this year. Just talked to John Comp today, as a matter of fact, and we're getting that lined up. So we're going to have basically a full line of Northwoods food plot seed at the shop. We're not going to ship any of the seed. It's going to be for pickup people local, or if you're going through Grand Rapids, you can stop at the shop. We have solo spreaders, we have habitat hooks. We've got some keys, and it's kind of neat. Because I've used everything. I've used it all. Like, I've tried everything. And so I'm keying in on stuff that I know works. And so even right there,
What better way to sell a product than the person who's selling it uses it, right?
Right.
It works out best that way. So, all right. So Ron Moses, give him a shout. Get with him. You can talk how you ever want to deal, and you can figure out something to do with that.
And we can ship them. We ship them all over the country.
And
literally today we shipped one to South Texas, and I shipped one to Minnesota. And I think we ended up shipping like 8 or 10 today. And they literally fanned out over the whole country. And so, you get it. If you got the HD, it's 10 to 15 minutes to put it together. It's super easy. The standard unit takes you 10 minutes. I mean, it's 6 bolts. And, so I'll ship it right to your doorstep. It comes in 2 boxes and super easy to assemble.
Right. So. And it also, you've got some dealers throughout the state of Michigan and Wisconsin. That, if you're in Clare, Standish, Clear Lake, Gaylord, Jones Lake, Ashland, Illinois, Wisconsin, you can stop in, go to the website, packermax.com, go to the dealers page, and there might be one close to you. You can go right there and check it out and touch it, feel it, and take care of it right there.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that is we do have many dealers in Michigan. We've got one. We're starting a big release with Wellsboro Equipment in Pennsylvania, Mansfield, Pennsylvania, and so there's a lot of people in that area that will be able to. I think that's nice too. We stand behind the product. If you get it and you don't like it, I don't want you to have it. You know what I mean? Like I want to take care of you. But it is nice to have something that you can physically touch and see versus just seeing it on YouTube or something. But
and also, I could not let the show go by without saying it would have been nice to see you at a public show so you could do that, but it isn't happening.
Not this year.
Well, we are. All of the shows that we would normally do are canceled except for one, and we will be March 5th through the 7th. We'll be in Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa. Iowa is not in Michigan.
Right. at the Iowa Deer Classic, and I know, Danny, you and I talked about road tripping it out there. You should road trip it. But
I tell you what, it's tempting because it's like I'm jonesing for a show, because it's like I normally head to the West Side to go see you guys and all our West Side folks, and it ain't happening. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, what goes on in this state. But I tell you what, we're coming up on our last break. We're going to go to our last break, because in the last segment, we're going to ask you some questions just to have some fun, like we always do with our interviewees.
All right, we're going to step outside. We'll be right back after this.
Acceleration is part of PSE's DNA. PSE pioneered the speed movement. Now they've developed the vapor category to help you find the most powerful bows on the market to fit you.
High speed equates to intense power and building the momentum you need to be successful. Are you a vapor shooter? Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Last segment of the show.
You know, before we get to the questions, I know Lincoln Rohn had an exciting hunt, but it wasn't with deer.
No, something to do with a cat.
Something to do with a cat.
I saw some pictures here I got.
So explain to the folks, the viewers and the listeners, how this all transpired, because all of a sudden you got a cat you're holding on to.
Well, yeah, and everybody's used to see me holding deer, and I mainly deer hunt. I don't hunt a lot of other species, and we've had over the last my family's owned this property in Newaygo for over 40 years, and over the last 10, 15 years, we've been getting steadily more and more pictures of bobcats. And one in particular is just a giant female, and she has a split on her left ear. Mm-hmm. And so she was pretty identifiable every time we get a trail camera picture of her. We kind of knew it was her. And so we actually trapped this one, but my buddy and I, got into some traps and got kind of set up and started watching some YouTube videos on how to do it. And Michigan, in that little Newaygo County area, they have it's a 10-day season. And so we went up and trapped, and we were lucky enough to have that mature bobcat step in the trap. And it's funny, though, trying to get a cat to step in a circle this big on 160 acres. It's pretty challenging.
Right.
And so, yeah, we were just, and again, it was a blessing. I got emotional when I was doing the little video recap of it, because, we've had this property for 40 years. My dad has, given up so much for us to have this property, and, my parents, both my mom and my dad, and in the time that we spent up there as a family unit together with my sons, my kids, myself with my dad, my relationship with my mom and dad is incredible. And a lot of it is to do with that cabin and the time that we spent there. And so when we decided that any if we got a very nice cat, we were going to have it a life-size mount. And we were going to put it in the cabin for my dad. And so, and then when we got this thing, it was just like I said, so many people have just been struggling epically. Like my buddy, my best friend, who's my hunting partner for 35 years, his dad was just recently passed away, but he was struggling with cancer at the time. And I just lost a good friend of mine to COVID. And, he's my age, and he got COVID and died, and so right as this is all transpiring, and, so many people have been affected by this, and I just keep getting these blessings thrown at me, with the business and deer hunting this year, and then this cat to top it off, like this coveted trophy, it was just incredible. It was so cool. And this cat is just an old warrior. Like her teeth her canines wore right down. Her middle teeth were missing.
She's been around a while.
Yeah, and I so you can go to the DNR website. My report isn't back yet, but once you check it in, they age they age it because you give them the skull and everything.
Right.
and so they'll be able to tell me, apparently pretty close how old it is. So I'm really curious to see how old it is. But so yeah, we're going to get a life-size mount and put it at the cabin, and Doyle Wildlife Taxidermy right here in Rockford is going to do it for me, and he was gracious enough to reach out and say, hey man, he's number 3 in the world in predator mounts. And he said, please don't let somebody turn that thing into a cartoon character.
Right.
You see so many cats that just look terrible.
Don't look like cats.
So, so I talked to Mike, and he did this. He skinned it so I could go get it checked in, and he's going to mount it for me. So
that is awesome. When you get it back,
cool.
You'll have to share some pictures on Facebook, and we'll grab them and we'll share them with our viewers and listeners. And did he give you an estimate of how long it'll take to have the mount done?
I don't know, honestly. Okay. I would imagine it'll be sometime next summer that I should get it back.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So, when you took that into the DNR and they took the skull to age it, do you get that back? Because I've heard from guys now that they're actually keeping the skulls.
Yeah, they keep the skulls, and it kind of depends. Like, I was kind of begging him to let me keep the skull. I'm like, can't you pull the tooth or something? But it was frozen. And so, because you got to leave the head intact. So, the skull. The skull was still frozen because it was in with the cape. And so he said if it wasn't frozen, he might be able to pull a tooth out and just give me the skull back. But he's like, we get all kinds of biological data off it and whatever. So he would not give me the skull back. So
you'd think there'd be a way that the DNR make that accessible that you could get that back. I mean, we get bear skulls, and
one would think.
And they just started recently doing that, I do believe.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they did. I guess it's a newer thing. So, and I guess it's not, like I said, it's not like if you get the guy on a good day and he can pull the tooth out and get what he needs to get off of it, he might give it back to you. But but it is what it is.
Exactly. But you got the cat.
So.
You got the cat. Cool. It'll be awesome. It'll be an awesome look in the cabin, no doubt about it.
Absolutely, definitely.
All right, let's turn this last few minutes into some fun and give you some questions, which we typically give you. You've already had these questions before, so we're gonna give them to you anyways. But hopefully, we're gonna start to keep the record of what these people tell us about their food, and we're gonna make a
beeline somewhere and get some dinner.
Yeah. So you've been to Ohio, you've been to Illinois,
Saskatchewan.
Not this year, but he's going to be traveling.
Couldn't get in this year,
right? You're going to be traveling to Iowa, so obviously you're going to be listening to that radio. What are you going to be listening to?
Country music the whole way.
There you go.
And maybe I am a bit of a 80s rock and roll guy too.
There's nothing wrong with that. At all.
There's one song that when it comes on, it's on I run my iPod and my truck runs off my iPhone, and when Motley Crue Wild Side comes on, it's cranked as loud as it will go.
All of a sudden, your hair turns into big 80s hairband.
Yep.
So he's listening to Hair Nation, Ozzy's Boneyard. I know exactly what your same stations I'm listening to, so I know exactly what you're doing. So okay, you're cranking. You're on your way to Iowa. You're cranking the Motley Crue. You're getting that munchie thing. What kind of snacks you gonna have in that truck on your way to Iowa?
Oh man, anything gluten free. I have a gluten allergy. It sucks. But so my new go-to, because they are gluten-free, is Cheetos. I all of a sudden have found a love for Cheetos. I eat Cheetos like I shouldn't.
Okay.
Cheetos popcorn, Cheetos Crunchies.
She's got orange fingers now.
Any kind of Cheetos, hot,
and
whatever, Puffs, Crunchies.
And by the time he gets to Iowa, the steering wheel is going to be all orange.
Right.
I love Donald Trump, but I'm going to look like Donald Trump by the time I get there. I'll be orange.
Right, exactly. Good deal.
Sorry, Donald. But.
Hey, it is what it is, right? It's in the commercials, right?
Right.
So, obviously you've gotten some game on the table. You're down out in the field. Mike and Dan are coming over for dinner, and you're going to make us a dinner. But what is going to be your dinner that you're going to make us? Wild game dinner. Could be anything.
Okay, so my specialty, and you can ask Adam Kemmer.
Yep.
I think you guys know Adam.
Oh, we know Adam well, yeah.
My guide from Saskatchewan, the outfitter, Chris Cook. Those guys have shared in this. But my specialty is tenderloins, and I don't do anything spectacular. I get them out, I clean them up, I get them to room temperature. I use Montreal seasoning and pink Himalayan sea salt or pink Himalayan salt, and I get a skillet super hot. I sear it. I do it, medium rare, and slice those up. And I'm telling you, there is not a better meat on the planet. So freaking good. Everybody loves my tenderloins.
So you sear them at a high heat for a minute aside.
And my uncle taught me this, but I do all of my meat by feel.
Okay. Yep.
I just feel it, and you can just feel it when it's starting to firm up a little bit. And then, man, I pull it, and like I said, it's pretty rare. I mean, my wife likes to eat the ends because the centers are pretty purple. but I'm here to tell you, they are fantastic.
It's a good meal.
Oh man! And
what with it? What with it? Okay, we got the tenderloin in front of it. What are you gonna have? What kind of sides are we gonna have with it?
Oh, and then we're gonna have some baby red skin potatoes roasted with some herb seasoning on them, and probably some sautéed onions up in there, and some baby portobello mushrooms sautéed up.
See, guys, I'm going to get something to eat.
Right? Exactly.
Man.
Oh,
so good stuff.
I'm looking at all the ingredients right now. Looking over there, going, man.
Hey,
I had chips and cheese for dinner tonight.
3 inches of snow outside. What better way to end your Thursday night than have a meal, right? So I tried real quick. I tried a recipe on a venison neck roast. And I think I need to tweak it a little bit, but that neck roast was really, really, really good. Really?
And just in a crock pot.
Okay, you slow cooked it. Okay.
Yep, some onions and some mushrooms and some beef broth or beef stock. And I slow cooked it for like 8 hours, and it was really, really good. And so a lot of people overlook that neck, and but you can peel it apart kind of like a pulled pork situation, or put it on some mashed potatoes, whatever. It was good. So,
that's what I did with my roast. I took it. I took a stew seasoning, and I threw the beans and carrots and potatoes in, and just let it go all day. And like you said,
garlic.
It is good stuff. Okay, so you have filled up Mike and Dan, and we're going to sit by the fire, and you're going to tell us a story that comes to mind that you want to tell us. That's going to be something in your mind from either way back, or maybe it just happened. What story are you going to tell Mike and Dan?
Oh, man. Probably one of the most memorable. It's probably going to be hunting, a hunting story. My most memorable story it's when I shot my buck in Saskatchewan, my second buck in Saskatchewan. After 6 days sitting on stand in the middle of the Canadian wilderness, 12, 13-hour days, playing cat and mouse with this big Canadian buck, having it finally come to fruition, and having him step out to my left. I looked down. I was in a ladder stand. I looked down, and he steps out at 15 steps.
Were you cold?
And
were you cold?
No. I go early. I'm a sissy. I go early.
Oh, okay.
I go in October.
Okay.
I go when it's tolerable. This past year when I shot my buck, it was 13 degrees, and that's warm up there.
Right.
So, but that's probably going to be the story.
All right, cool. And we've seen pictures. So, we've seen pictures of that buck. And you know what?
Yep.
I'm going to turn around after you tell me that story, and after we've had a good night together. I'm going to turn around, look you dead in the eye, and congratulate you.
All right.
I'm going to congratulate you on your so many years of sobriety.
Oh yeah.
I know you've mentioned it
Thank you.
several times, and I want to commend you beyond what anybody knows.
Yeah, now you're going to get me choked up.
No, I'm getting choked up, and
that means the world to me.
Exactly,
it really does.
I commend
I
you.
literally wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys right now had I not been
Turned
successful
it around.
at.
Turned it around, right?
Yep.
And you looked
20 years, or excuse me, 19 years. I just celebrated 19 years of sobriety.
There you
That's
go,
awesome.
man. Congratulations,
So,
bud.
thank you.
And you can look in the mirror every day and do that.
I take none of the credit. I give it all to the Lord because I couldn't. Like I said, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Well, he's a guiding factor in your life, and when you look in that mirror, you got to answer to two people. One is him, and one is you.
Yep.
So
And my
you've
wife.
done it.
True.
Well,
I'm not sure which order that goes.
right?
Oh,
But I want to.
No, seriously, Danny, I appreciate that very much, man. I really do. It means a lot to me. And,
You have no idea when I see you post that every year that I follow that and we don't get together except either at a show or anything like that, or maybe if I stop by. But definitely, if we spent the night together, you'd get a big attaboy from me for that.
Yeah, thanks,
absolutely.
dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think we're at the end of the show, and I wanted to end it on a great note.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to do that, and I've been thinking about that since we said we were going to have you on. So I just wanted to shout out to you. But
thank you.
But everybody out there, you got to get over to Packer Maxx. Get your order in because spring is actually going to be here
before we know it.
Oh,
yeah,
soon. We're 60, 45 days out probably. I mean,
really.
So yeah,
okay.
and check out our new building. We're excited to be in there. It's not huge, but it's very, very nice. It's set up very nice, and we're very efficient out of there. And we're going to have some pretty cool stuff there. That food plotters are going to be able to use and enjoy and grow some great groceries and do a little habitat work, and it'll be good.
Excellent.
So,
well, I tell you what, man, it's been a pleasure having you on. For those of you on the podcast, make sure you get over to his website and check out the Packer Maxx. If you're in the area, stop by the shop, what have you, or some of the dealers in the area that are near your home. If you're listening to us on iTunes, make sure you go over to iTunes and give us a review, please. That helps us and helps people like Lincoln, who helps us as well. It just helps to spread the good word. And don't forget to share us on social media. Share Packer Maxx's page on your social media as well. And just get out there and hit it hard, man. Get ready, grow some groceries here this spring.
So we're closing in. So I want to thank you guys too for being such a great partner. And just your show. You bring a lot of good information to a lot of people, and I just I want to commend you guys too for bringing the outdoors to people and just keeping people engaged. And you guys are incredible, likable people, and I just love hanging out at the cabin with you guys. I really do, and thank you for that.
Hey man,
so,
we got to do face to face here soon, man. This
for sure.
staying home stuff is getting to be for the birds. So
yeah, and then one last thing that I want to bring up too is I'm gonna, and I've been wanting to do this too. Something I've been thinking about, but we'd like to do a Up North Journal listeners discount on Packer Maxx. And the code, you can order it on the website, or if you come to the shop, we'll just do the discount. But it'll be a $25 discount off any model, and use Up North Journal. So UNJ 25.
UNJ 25.
Yep, UNJ 25. Yep, for the 25 discount for the discount code.
Well, thanks, man. We
appreciate that. Everybody out there. It was kind of nice. I was actually working my real job, and somebody hit me up and they wanted to talk Packer Maxx. I'm like,
cool.
Okay, I can have a meeting on this. This is good. This is good. So absolutely, we'll keep that out there. We'll get that out there to the folks and our listeners, and get them over to you.
All right,
awesome,
so
man.
For those of you on the podcast, that'll do it for us this week. Next week we've got
JPO Paul from JPO Game Calls. He's local right here in Linden, Michigan. He will be on the show with his wife Amy. We're going to be talking spring turkey.
All right.
Ooh, nice.
You gotta love it. All right, so those of you on the podcast, that'll do it for us this week, folks.
This episode was brought to you by
PSE Archery,
Hunter's Blend Coffee,
Better the Hunt,
Easy Cut,
Packer Maxx,
Buck Baits,
Limb Walker Game Calls,
Total Peep,
Sunrise Archery,
Scent Lock,
Scent Blocker,
Rebel 6 Rub, and Season.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal.